or a superhero, and your mask has just been ripped off by your arch nemesis. Lucky for you, when you aren't busy saving lives, you live as a hermit away from all of society. Having your identity revealed means next to nothing, and the villain has no idea who you are. Destiny Matthews? The man said to me as I sat near my small fire under the bridge, pretending to huddle against the cold. The name I hadn't heard used in years sent chills down my spine. What do you want? I asked, hamming up the part of a bum, but I knew this stranger knew it was an act. The bald head, the regal posture, and the arrogant voice. The Voidmister stood before me, out of costume. Of course, this boded ill, but I could not understand why this would suddenly bother me after a decade. What could he have? Who would have thought? He asked, gesturing around. The Black Nova is homeless. Figured the ripped-off mask would do this. That and facial recognition corporation you own that's really just a front for your criminal enterprises. I shot back, dropping the act as I leaned back into the support of the bridge. The concrete vibrated slightly with traffic passing above. Again, what do you want? Mother and father died in a plane crash. He stated clearly, ignoring my question. Father was a physicist. Was it a little accident with one of his atom-shattering experiments that gave you your powers? I wonder. Too bad. Your parents being alive would be very useful to use against you. No other living relatives. Not that you would care about. Anyway, then imagine my surprise when I learned about your husband and child. They are almost completely forgotten with the passage of time, but I managed to piece together your little secret. Did you? My senses were heightened and I felt the burning of atomic fire at the core of my being stirring. My investigators found 2 piles of radioactive ash in the abandoned burned-out house where you lived, all 3 occupants presumed burnt to death in the resulting inferno. He smiled brightly. But you and I both know only 2 people died that day. She was 4 years old. If you couldn't have her, no one could. Is that it? Nasty little surprise that. Still, it explains things. Uh-huh. I nodded and hoped he would believe there was a dark, evil side of me that was seeking to make up for the horrible wrongs I'd done that night. And with a little investigation, he tapped the side of his skull. I discovered he had filed divorce papers. Was he threatening to tell the world your little secret? Expose you? After 10 years, I've figured it all out and I'm going to ruin you in the media. Imagine the headlines. Earth's greatest hero of fraud. A family slaughtered. The press can be so tacky, but I think I'll let them indulge themselves on this one little thing. I'll even be sure that exact headline is used in all the media I own. I stood up and heard the hiss of his force field crackle like frying eggs as it activated. He was a genius and his force field was tough to penetrate. It was what allowed him to survive in a world of heroes that could otherwise smush him like a bug. Wow, you got it, genius. I smiled at him and kicked a stone and he smiled back in triumph. Almost. My smile grew as I added, you see, my husband did not know about my powers. I watched his smile dwindle and could imagine his brain working feverishly with the new information. The look of astonishment told me he had figured it out. What? Then where? Out of the darkness, the cab of a semi-truck smashed through him in a shield, unable to compensate for the sheer amount of kinetic energy smashing into him. I quickly did the calculations for how much force a 10-ton object moving at several hundred miles per hour would exert on a human-sized target and whistled softly as he went from a man to a cloud of blood gently floating through the night, a mist in the void. How appropriate. I smiled as the young teenage heroine landed across from me. Just in time to save the day, guardian angel. I hugged her and she looked me up and down. Mom, she said to me through rapidly forming tears, he figured it all out. Figured out you killed Dad because of me, not you. Wait, where are you going? I had risen off the pavement, my clothing burning off in wisps of atomic fire. There's a mansion to be burned down. I have to destroy the evidence. I could use a hand, you know. The tears in her eyes came out in torrents as she flew to my side. I heard I love you, Mom, whispered through the tearing night air. I know, baby, I know, I said, flying straight and true, forever knowing that even the brightest heroes had dark secrets.